My name is Emily Carter. I am 31 years old. And for most of my life, people underestimated me, not because I lacked ability, but because I never felt the need to explain myself. I grew up in a quiet town outside Madison, Wisconsin, in a small white house with peeling paint and a backyard that flooded every spring. My father, Thomas Carter, worked as a public school math teacher for over 30 years. My mother, Linda Carter, worked nights at a local library and spent her mornings packing my lunch and reminding me that dignity mattered more than appearances. We weren't poor in the dramatic sense. There was always food on the table, but we were invisible. The kind of family people don't notice unless they need directions. From a young age, I learned how to be silent. Silent when others bragged. Silent when others mocked. Silent when people assumed. And that silence would later become my greatest weapon. I met Daniel Whitmore when I was 24. He was everything my world wasn't: confident, well-spoken, raised in Greenwich, Connecticut, surrounded by old money and even older expectations. His father had passed away when he was young, leaving behind a powerful legacy and an even more powerful woman, Margaret Whitmore. Margaret Whitmore was a name people said carefully. She owned stakes in multiple real estate firms, sat on nonprofit boards she never attended, and donated large sums of money just to ensure her name was engraved in marble. She was elegant, intimidating, and deeply convinced that wealth was the only proof of worth. From the moment she met me, she decided I was a mistake. She smiled politely, of course. Margaret always smiled, but her eyes scanned me like an unpaid bill. "Emily, dear," she said during our first dinner, swirling her wine, "what do your parents do?" When I told her, she nodded slowly. How humble. That single word told me everything. Daniel loved me, truly, but he was also a man raised to avoid conflict. Whenever his mother made small comments about my clothes, my accent, my background, he would squeeze my hand under the table and say nothing. "Just ignore her," he whispered once. "She doesn't mean it." She always meant it. After we got married, things grew worse. Margaret believed I had married her son for security. She told people, never directly to me, always around me, that I was fortunate to marry into their family, that I should be grateful, that I should learn to carry myself properly now. Once, at a charity luncheon, she laughed softly and said, "Emily doesn't come from money, she comes from effort." The women around her laughed. I smiled. What none of them knew was this. While they were discussing brunch and vacations, I was studying financial markets. While they were buying luxury handbags, I was buying undervalued stocks. While they trusted advisors blindly, I learned how money actually moved. After college, I had joined a small investment firm in Chicago, quiet, analytical work. I reinvested everything I earned. I lived modestly. I said no to things I could afford because I didn't need to prove anything. And slowly, invisibly, I built something substantial. But I never told Daniel. Not because I didn't trust him, but because I wanted to know who loved me when money wasn't visible. The breaking point came 3 years into our marriage. Margaret invited us to a formal dinner at her estate. Crystal glasses, linen tablecloths, a guest list filled with people who introduced themselves by their last names. Halfway through dinner, she raised her glass. "I want to say something," she announced. The room quieted. "My son married for love," she said, "which is admirable, but love doesn't pay bills, and sometimes affection blinds us to reality." Her eyes flicked toward me. "Emily is simple, and that's fine. But let's be honest, without this family, her life would have been very different." My heart pounded. Daniel stiffened. She smiled. "I just hope she understands how lucky she is." That night, I cried in the car. Daniel apologized, promised he would talk to her, promised things would change. They didn't. 2 months later, Margaret announced a prestigious real estate auction in New York City. A historic waterfront mansion, one of the last of its kind. Media attention was intense. Billionaires were flying in. It was going to be a spectacle. Margaret wanted that house. She talked about it constantly. "This will be my legacy property," she said, "the crown jewel." And then she looked at me and added, "Emily, dear, you've probably never been to an auction like this. It's intense." I smiled. "I've been to a few." She laughed openly. "I'm sure." That night, I made a decision. I registered for the auction. The auction hall was breathtaking. Polished marble floors, chandeliers, reporters lining the walls. Security everywhere. Margaret arrived like royalty. Cameras followed her. People greeted her by name. I walked in quietly. No designer gown, no diamonds, just a simple navy dress and confidence that came from preparation. Margaret saw me and frowned. "Oh," she said, "you came to watch." "No," I replied calmly. "I came to bid." She stared at me. "Emily, this isn't a charity raffle." "I know." She leaned closer, voice sharp. "Don't embarrass yourself." I met her eyes. "I won't." The bidding began. Numbers climbed quickly. 10 million, 12, 15. People dropped out one by one. Margaret remained confident, raising her paddle effortlessly. Then so did I. Whispers filled the room. "Who is she? Does she have backing? This is ridiculous." Margaret turned red. She placed a higher bid. So did I. Her banker leaned over, whispering urgently. Margaret hesitated. The room held its breath. The auctioneer raised his gavel. "Final call." I lifted my paddle. The gavel struck. "Sold. Final bid accepted." The auctioneer smiled. "Congratulations, Ms. Emily Carter." Silence. Then chaos. Margaret looked at me like she had never seen me before. "How?" she whispered. I answered softly. "I never needed your money. I just never needed your approval either." The room didn't explode into noise immediately. For a few seconds after the auctioneer's gavel hit the podium, there was a strange, heavy silence, like everyone needed permission to breathe again. Then the whispers started. They rolled through the hall in waves. "Emily Carter. Who is she? She outbid Margaret Whitmore." "That's impossible." Cameras that had been trained on Margaret swung toward me. Bright lights hit my face, sudden and blinding. I stood still, hands steady, heart pounding, but not with fear. With relief. Margaret Whitmore didn't move. Her posture, always perfect, finally cracked. Her lips parted slightly, as if she wanted to say something sharp, something cutting, but no words came out. For the first time since I'd known her, she looked small. Daniel was standing a few rows back. When our eyes met, I saw something shift in his expression. Shock first, then confusion, then something that looked like awe mixed with betrayal. He didn't clap. He didn't smile. He just stared. After the auction, chaos followed. A representative from the auction house approached me with documents. Lawyers appeared from nowhere. Someone asked for my identification. Another congratulated me enthusiastically. Margaret's banker spoke in urgent whispers to her, his tone apologetic, almost fearful. "I told you the liquidity ceiling was." She silenced him with a raised hand. Her eyes never left me. As I signed the initial paperwork, she finally walked toward me. Each step was deliberate, controlled. Cameras followed her like loyal pets. She stopped inches away from me. "You planned this," she said quietly. I looked up at her. "No," I replied. "I prepared for it." There was a difference. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. "You humiliated me." I met her gaze, calm. "You humiliated yourself. I just stopped pretending." For a moment, I thought she might slap me. Her jaw tightened. Her fingers curled slightly. Then she straightened and smiled for the cameras. "Congratulations, Emily," she said sweetly. "Enjoy your house." She turned and walked away. The car ride back to the hotel was silent. Daniel drove. I sat in the passenger seat, watching New York City blur past the window. Neon lights, late-night traffic, people living their lives without knowing they just witnessed the collapse of a carefully constructed illusion. After 10 minutes, Daniel finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice wasn't angry, it was wounded. I exhaled slowly. "You never asked." "That's not fair." "I think it is," I said gently. "You asked me about my childhood, about my parents, about my feelings. You never once asked me about my finances, because deep down you assumed you already knew." He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "My mother has treated me like a parasite since the day we met," I finished, "and you let her." He flinched. "I didn't know it was this bad." I turned to him. "You knew enough." Silence returned. That night, I lay awake in the hotel room, staring at the ceiling. The victory didn't feel the way I thought it would. There was no rush, no triumphal joy. Just clarity. I had crossed a line, and there was no going back. The next morning, the story was everywhere. Mystery bidder OUTBIDS real estate tycoon. Who is Emile Y. Carter? Silent investor, shocks NYC auction. My phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Emails poured in, journalists, analysts, old colleagues, people who suddenly remembered my name. Margaret didn't call. Daniel didn't speak much either. When we returned to Connecticut, the atmosphere in the Whitmore estate had changed completely. The staff avoided eye contact. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. At dinner that night, Margaret sat at the head of the table, silent. Halfway through the meal, she set her fork down. "I owe you an apology," she said. Everyone froze. She looked at me, her expression unreadable. "I underestimated you." That was it. No acknowledgement of cruelty, no mention of the years of belittling. Just that. I nodded politely. Apology accepted. Her eyes narrowed slightly. She wasn't used to being dismissed so easily. But the real consequences came later. 2 weeks after the auction, Margaret hosted a private gathering. Business partners, investors, friends who mattered. Daniel and I attended. As the night wore on, I noticed something strange. People were coming up to me, asking questions. Serious questions. About market trends, about investment strategies, about risk exposure. Margaret watched from across the room, her smile tight. Finally, she joined us. "I didn't realize you were involved in finance," she said. "I've been involved for a long time," I replied. She nodded slowly. "Well, perhaps we should talk. There may be opportunities for collaboration." That was the moment I understood something important. Respect for her was transactional. I smiled politely. "I don't mix family with business." Her expression hardened. The tension between Daniel and me grew. He wasn't cruel, he wasn't dismissive, but he was lost. "You changed overnight," he said once. "No," I corrected him. "You just finally saw me." He struggled with that. He struggled with the idea that his wife didn't need his family, didn't need his safety net, didn't need him to shield her from the world. And that scared him. One evening, he asked quietly, "Do you even need me?" The question broke my heart. "I want you," I said, "but I won't shrink to be needed." He nodded, but I could tell he didn't fully understand. Then came the dinner that changed everything. Margaret invited us again, this time with several high-profile guests. I suspected a trap, but I went anyway. Midway through dessert, she stood up. "I want to make an announcement," she said. "Emily has recently acquired a historic property in New York." Polite applause followed. "She's been full of surprises," Margaret continued, "and it's made me reflect on the importance of transparency in families." I felt my chest tighten. "Emily," she said, turning to me, "perhaps you'd like to share where your money came from." The room went quiet. All eyes on me. This was it. I stood slowly. "My money came from years of work," I said calmly. From living below my means, from investing when it wasn't glamorous, from believing that security is built, not inherited. I paused, and from not needing anyone's permission. Murmurs rippled through the guests. Margaret's smile faltered. I didn't ask for a speech, she said sharply. I didn't ask for your approval, I replied. Silence slammed into the room. Daniel looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something new in his eyes. Understanding. That night when we got home, Daniel spoke first. I think I need distance from my mother, he said quietly, and I think I need to learn who you really are. I nodded. So do I said. Because success doesn't just expose others. It exposes yourself too. Distance changes people. Sometimes it heals them. Sometimes it reveals what was already broken. Daniel moved out of his mother's estate 2 weeks after that dinner. He rented a quiet apartment in Stamford, nothing extravagant, just space. Space to think. Space to breathe without Margaret Whitmore's shadow hanging over every decision. I didn't follow him immediately. Instead, I stayed behind, alone in that massive house that had never once felt like a home. Margaret barely spoke to me now. When she did, it was clipped, formal, cold. The warmth she reserved for guests and donors vanished the moment the doors closed. She had lost control. And Margaret Whitmore did not forgive loss easily. 3 days later, I received an email from a journalist at the Wall Street Chronicle. We're preparing a feature on silent investors who outperform legacy wealth. We'd like to interview you. I read it twice. Then I closed my laptop. Not yet. Because I knew something was coming. Margaret struck first. She didn't confront me directly. She never did when things mattered. Instead, she did what she did best. She worked behind the scenes. Suddenly, rumors began circulating. That I had outside backing. That I was a front for foreign money. That my marriage was strategic. That I had manipulated Daniel. People who had smiled at me weeks earlier now watched me carefully. Conversations stopped when I entered rooms. Invitations dried up. Daniel noticed too. She's trying to destroy your credibility, he said one night when we met for dinner. I nodded. She always does that to people she can't control. What are you going to do? I took a sip of water. Nothing, yet. That worried him more than anger would have. The real blow came a week later. Margaret filed a lawsuit. Not against me directly, but against the auction house. She claimed procedural irregularities, implied insider bidding, demanded a full audit and suspension of the sale. Her goal wasn't to win. It was to delay, to drain, to exhaust. The press jumped on it immediately. WHTMORI, CHALLNGS auction RESULTS. QESDONS, raised about Carter's FINANCES. Daniel was furious. She's trying to take it from you. No, I corrected. She's trying to prove I don't deserve it. My legal team was calm, confident. But Margaret underestimated something fundamental. I had records. Every transaction. Every investment. Every tax filing. Every audit. I had built my wealth slowly and cleanly. Because I never planned to hide. The hearing was scheduled in New York. Margaret arrived surrounded by lawyers. She looked composed, regal even. Cameras loved her. I arrived alone. No entourage, no spectacle. Just truth. The courtroom was packed. Margaret's attorney spoke first, long, polished, dripping with implication. They painted me as an anomaly, an outsider, a statistical improbability. Then my lawyer stood, and calmly, methodically, dismantled every claim. Transaction histories appeared on screens. Independent audits confirmed legitimacy. Years of documentation spoke louder than any accusation. Then came the moment Margaret hadn't prepared for. The judge looked directly at her. Mrs. Whitmore, he said, This court finds no basis for your claims. The auction stands. Pause. And I caution you against using litigation as retaliation. The word hung in the air. Retaliation. Margaret's jaw tightened. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded me. Ms. Carter, do you have a comment? I considered my words carefully. Yes, I said. Wealth doesn't make you powerful. It just reveals how you treat people when you think no one's watching. That quote ran everywhere. Margaret's name followed it like a shadow. That night, Daniel came to my apartment. I'm done pretending, he said. With her. With the version of myself that stayed quiet, he replied. I chose comfort over courage, and I almost lost you because of it. I studied his face. Do you want me? I asked. Or do you want the idea of a wife who fits your world? He swallowed. I want you exactly as you are. I believed him. But belief isn't enough. Trust has to be rebuilt. Slowly. Margaret's fall wasn't dramatic. It was quieter than that. Investors began distancing themselves. Boards questioned her judgment. Donations declined. Invitations stopped. Not because she lost money, but because she lost authority. People fear instability more than poverty. And Margaret Whitmore had revealed herself as vindictive. She called me one evening. I almost didn't answer. Almost. I didn't raise Daniel to marry someone like you, she said without greeting. I waited. You've changed everything, she continued. You could have stayed in your place. There it was. I spoke calmly. My place was never below you. You just needed me there to feel taller. Silence. Then quietly. What do you want? I thought about that. I want peace, I said, and distance. She laughed bitterly. You think you've won. I don't think about you enough to call it winning, I replied. And I hung up. Months later, the mansion I bought was restored. But I never moved into it. Instead, I sold it and used the proceeds to fund financial literacy programs for women, especially those from quiet families, overlooked backgrounds, invisible places. The press asked why. I answered honestly. Because no one taught me money, I had to teach myself, and no one should have to feel small because they don't look powerful. Daniel and I rebuilt our marriage on different terms. Not inherited ones. Equal ones. Margaret attended exactly 0 holidays after that. She sent a card once. It said, I see you now. I never replied. People still ask me what it felt like. To outbid my mother-in-law. To be called poor, then proven powerful. I always give the same answer. It didn't change who I was, I say. It just stopped others from deciding for me. Because the auctioneer didn't just call my bid final. He ended a story someone else had written about me. And I finally got to write my own.